Personal notice. Danger's my stock and trade. If the job's too tough for you to handle, you've got a job for me, George Valentine. Write full details.
Let George do it. And now, tonight's story, The Forgotten Murder, a transcribed adventure of George Valentine.
George Valentine, Esquire. My dear sir, I would deem it a great favor if you came for tea this afternoon at 3:30. I've been led to believe that you're the kind of man who would interest himself, for a stipend, of course, in a problem such as mine. A murder which is not even considered as such. A murder which has
long since been forgotten by everyone except yours very truly, Miss Felicity Graham.
That's quite a letter. Equal parts of gentility and murder.
I had a maiden aunt once who used to write letters that sounded like this, even if she was only asking the milkman to leave an extra bottle of cream.
Here, let me see. 45 Barrington Terrace. I know that neighborhood. Ancestral brownstones, with every room like a set out of arsenic and old lace.
And every closet with a family skeleton. I know what you mean.
Well, Brooksy, I don't know about you, but I find myself rather impatient to have tea with anyone named Felicity.
Any more tea for anyone?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Please excuse us, Paul. I'd like to speak to Miss Brooks and Mr. Valentine in private.
I thought you trusted me completely, Felicity, with everything.
Please, Paul. You've been so sweet and patient all these years. Bear with me a little longer.
But I don't think Oh, whatever you say, whatever you wish.
My best friend. My only faithful suitor.
Your letter referred to a murder, Miss Graham.
Yes. A murder which took place some 15 years ago. Until it's solved, I'm afraid I can't find any peace and happiness in my own life.
Miss Graham, I think you'd better give Mr. Valentine all the facts from the beginning.
Well, there was only one person who was close to me in the whole world. My cousin Laura. We became orphans about the same time, and for years we were inseparable. And then she got married. And the scoundrel murdered her. And he's off somewhere, grinning about it right now.
Well, Miss Graham, if what you say is true, this sounds like a case for the police.
Oh, the police. They consider me their personal cross to bear. They've been listening to my story for the past 15 years. The kinder ones simply say I'm pitched in the head.
But if they feel there's nothing can be done, I don't know how much help I can give you.
But I tell you, Laura was murdered. I refuse to believe that she and her husband entered into a suicide pact. It's ridiculous.
Suicide pact? But I thought her husband was the murderer. If he's dead, too...
Well, according to the police files, Laura and her husband, James Cartwright, committed suicide together. Drove their car off a lonely pier into the ocean.
Oh, how awful.
Their bodies were never found on account of the tides. The only things that were found along the shore were one of Laura's shoes and her handbag.
Was there a suicide note?
Yes, it was found on Laura's night table. It said that she and Cartwright ran through all the money her parents had left her. They couldn't stand the prospect of just grubbing along.
Mm-hmm. Well, frankly, Miss Graham, I don't see how I fit into all this.
Look. There, on the financial page. It's yesterday's journal.
Oh. Seems to place, Juan Palos, South American millionaire.
Now, this is supposed to be Juan Palos, executive vice president of the Los Altos gold mine. He's here in the States for a directors' meeting.
Well, what about it, Miss Graham?
I believe this man to be James Cartwright.
You do?
I met Laura's husband only once in my life, and that was quite enough. But I still say this could be Cartwright.
Well, now, isn't that taking a lot for granted, Miss Graham? It's been 15 years. So many men look
It was
alike.
the name Los Altos that caught my attention. You see, Mr. Valentine, all during those few months they were married, Cartwright somehow arranged to send most of Laura's money out of the country to a town named Los Altos in South America. Some legal hocus-pocus with a shyster lawyer.
How do you know all this?
Well, I checked with a private detective. That's where the trail ended. 15 years ago.
As I get it, you feel James Cartwright married your cousin for her money, then somehow, very skillfully, he stripped her of it.
Oh, it was all very neat. Laura's signature was on every withdrawal, no doubt about that.
And then you feel he killed her in what was supposed to be a suicide pact.
Cartwright loved himself too much to commit suicide. He was too handsome, too arrogant. And he knew they didn't run out of money. He just had it planted where he could pick it up.
Well, I just can't go up to this Mr. Palos and ask him to bare his life to me.
I know. And that's why I'm willing to pay you. I don't even have a picture of Cartwright. And there isn't a set of his fingerprints anywhere. He saw to that.
Well, then I
just want you to meet this Mr. Palos. See if he doesn't make the one little slip that'll prove I'm right about it.
What do you mean?
If this man is James Cartwright, he won't be able to resist anything that has to do with cards.
Cards?
Not only was he a gambler, but he prided himself on the tricks he could do with cards. All sorts of sleight of hand.
Charming fellow to play cards with.
Oh, I know if you go about it right, Mr. Valentine. You'll be able to make him give himself away.
Appeal to the card sharp in him, huh? Well, we could give it a try.
I must be sure. For this one last time. I can't find any peace in my heart. I can't pick up my own life unless I'm sure I haven't failed Laura. I loved her very much. Of course. James Cartwright was a beast. He made life a nightmare for Laura, deliberately, cruelly.
How do you mean?
He got a perverse pleasure out of hurting her. She was a high-strung, sensitive girl. She was afraid of the dark, for instance. When we were little girls, if we were left in the dark, she'd run out of the room, screaming. Cartwright would pull cute little tricks, like putting all the lights out. All sorts of things like that.
Well, Miss Graham, it's a long shot. But if it'll make you feel any better, I'll see what I can do. I don't put much stock in all this, Angel.
Well, if it will put her mind at rest, it's surely worth a try.
Yeah, I guess so.
Mr. Valentine, wait.
Oh, Paul Henridge, isn't it?
Yes. I want you to stop checking into this business with Mr. Palos.
Well, now, I was under the impression Miss Graham wanted that to be a private matter.
I was eavesdropping. I'm not ashamed to admit it.
Well, you certainly should be.
Here, Valentine, take this check.
That's a pretty check. What am I supposed to do to earn it?
Tell Felicity that Palos isn't Cartwright.
Well, now, look, he probably isn't, friend, but at least I'm going to try and make sure.
Valentine, I want to marry Felicity. If she's convinced Laura and her husband did commit suicide, I think she'll finally say yes to me. I don't want to take even the smallest chance of Palos being Cartwright.
I understand how you feel, Henrich, but I do have an obligation to my client.
You'll be a sorry man, Valentine, if you don't listen to me.
I guess it's just a chance I'll have to take. Yeah, I hear you, Johnson. She's been bothering you before, year after year. And the answer's still suicide, huh? No doubt about the handwriting on the suicide note. Okay, thanks a lot.
George, the cablegram from that detective agency in Buenos Aires is here.
Oh, good. Read it.
The Palaces are respectable members of South American society. Senor Palos struck it rich at the Los Altos gold mine about 15 years ago. Married a lady from the States.
Struck it rich about 15 years ago. Uh-huh. Oh, but it is such a shame. We are friends of Senor and Senora Palos. And now we miss them, eh?
That's right, sir. They checked out this morning.
Darling, giving us young man $10 for being so helpful and telling us where the Palaces went.
But, madam, I didn't. I...
Women, eh, my young friend?
Yes, women. They went up to the mountaintop ski lodge to rest up from doing nothing.
Take a card, Brooks.
Stop with that accent.
All right. Take a card, honey.
No, not again.
Again.
It's bad enough I have to do all the driving.
But I have to do a little practicing on card tricks.
Yeah, I know.
Go on. Go. Take a card.
Okay.
3 of diamonds.
Close. Queen of spades.
Well, it's still a few miles to the ski lodge. I'll probably learn.
Mr. and Mrs. Palos are at the table by the window.
Thanks, waiter. Here you are. Buy yourself an annuity.
Thank you, sir.
George, people are looking.
Well, I gotta get into the role of Georgie Valentine, boy life of the party. Come on.
Okay, Georgie.
Well, honey, look at these 2 people sitting here by themselves. I bet they're as lonely as we are.
I beg your pardon.
I bet they'd like company, too.
Really?
Just a minute, my dear. Let's see what the gentleman wants.
Well, when me and the wife here walked in, we said right off, I bet you these 2 people are just like us. Hate to eat alone.
That's just what my husband said.
How interesting.
So we decided to come over and rescue you. Sit down, Claire. Oh, yeah, I want you to meet my wife, Mr.
Palos, Juan Palos, and Mrs. Palos.
Well,
Oh, yeah, Valentine is the name. I travel in women's dresses.
You...
Yes. Always gets a salesman. I sell women's dresses, yeah. What's your line?
Gold.
just gold?
Gold.
How nice for you.
Juan, it's really getting quite late.
Oh, we have done, Doris.
Well, Mr. Palace, I'm glad to meet another businessman who knows how to take things easy, how to relax. I bet anything you have a hobby, too.
Why, yes. Skiing, of course. Mountain climbing.
Oh, yeah, well, fine. But I have a hobby I carry around with me. Makes me the life of the party wherever I go.
I'm sure you don't need a hobby like to do that, Mr. Valentine.
You're right, dearie.
Yeah, but a hobby sure helps. Here, you see these cards? Go on now, pick a card.
Well,
No, go ahead. Go on.
All right.
All right. Don't show me now.
No,
5 of hearts.
I'm afraid not. King of clubs.
But looky here. I take the whole deck of cards, and by flipping them up in the air like that, I shuffle the whole deck.
Oh, Georgie, they all fell.
Here, let me.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Mr. Palace. If you want to show me how it should be done.
I show you? Oh, senor, when it comes to things like this, I am, all thumbs. I would be no help at all.
Oh.
I merely wanted to help you pick up the cards.
Poor Georgie and his card tricks.
I don't know about you, Juan, but I've had enough of this. I'm going upstairs.
Very well, Doris. It's been very nice meeting you, Mr. Valentine. It's too bad about your trick. So sorry I could not help you to make it come out right.
Oh, that's okay.
You know, perhaps you tried too hard. It's a common failing with so many amateurs. Good night.
Not even a little nibble, senor.
Yeah, and I was certainly bad enough.
Well, he's either the wrong man or he's very clever.
Oh, it isn't a question of brains, Brooksy. I counted on instinct. If he were James Cartwright, demon card trickster, I was sure he couldn't resist showing me how the trick should have been done.
Well, what now?
Oh, I don't know. Hey, wait, Brooksy. Suppose I tell Palace who I am and what I'm here for.
Oh, fine. You'll fess up just like that.
Well, it isn't as silly as it sounds. It may turn into a very neat little trap.
But if he is Cartwright, that'll give him all the warning he needs.
You know, Brooksy, they haven't invented a trap yet that'll work without bait. And I'm sure of one thing. I'll make a better piece of cheese than I am a card sharp.
You're hired by a determined little spinster lady, Miss Felicity Graham, to try and solve a murder mystery more than 15 years old. Your specific assignment is to prove to your own satisfaction whether a South American millionaire, Juan Palos, is or is not James Cartwright. Yes, the same James Cartwright who presumably died in a suicide pact with Felicity's cousin Laura. Up to now, you've gotten nowhere. So if your name is George Valentine, you decide on the most direct approach possible. You're going to walk right up and tell Senor Palos your suspicions.
Before we go in to see the Palaces, George, you've got to tell me what you want with my compact.
I just wanted to make a nice, noticeable bulge in the pocket of my jacket.
You could tell me why.
I haven't got time.
Yeah? Oh, Senor Valentine, the card tricks man.
Yeah, well, that's what I came over to explain, Mr. Palace. That is, if we may come in.
Well, of course. Has your husband been practicing, Mr. Valentine?
Well, he's been cooking up something.
Juan, who's at the door? Oh. Juan, darling, we must be dressed for dinner, and I'm sure that these people...
Please, Mrs. Pallas, this won't take long. The truth is, I'm not a traveling salesman. This is my secretary, Miss Brooks. And the reason I'm up here at the lodge is to find out if you're a murderer, Mr. Pallas.
What?
Juan, call the manager at once. This man is a raving lunatic.
Think fast, almighty brother of Dick Tracy.
Well, the suspected murderer, Mr. Pallas, was supposed to have practically had an obsession about card tricks. So if he had been you, he would have given himself away when I did that card trick so badly.
Must we listen to any more of this fantastic story?
No, but I find this rather intriguing, my dear. Just why did you suspect me, Mr. Valentine?
The trail of the murderer led to South America. To Los Altos, to be exact. It was lost there.
Oh, my dear fellow. There are more than 1,000 people in Los Altos. Fully more than half of them work for my company, as a matter of fact.
Well, I came to apologize. It was a bad hunch, poorly played.
You should apologize. Forcing yourself on us in the dining room, lying to us.
Yeah, I know, especially when it was also unnecessary.
I'm glad to see I've been exonerated.
Now, that's not exactly what I meant.
What is that?
I mean, I now have a concrete way to solve this case. In my pocket, I have the lovely heart-shaped compact that was found in the dead lady's handbag.
Really?
Yeah, strange how everybody overlooks such a glaring piece of evidence at the time. But sometimes it happens that way.
What in the world are you talking about?
Well, as soon as I get back to town, I'm going to have an expert check on this compact, and I think I can prove it was murder.
Oh, well, good luck, Valentine. And be sure to let me know about the solution when you find it. I shall be most interested.
Yeah, I'll do that. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
George, I haven't the slightest idea
Hey, wait,
what
Angel.
you're trying...
Hey, you.
That man! That's Paul Henry!
Yeah, you. Henrich, wait. Don't you know it's impolite not to answer when somebody's talking to you?
Let go of me, Valentine.
Not until you answer a couple of questions.
I warned you not to interfere.
Well, Mr. Henry, welcome to Mountaintop Lodge.
So you've been eavesdropping again, eh, friend?
Yes, and again, I don't apologize for it. I'll kill you if you don't stop meddling.
It's not fair, Buster. You didn't say put him up and fight like a man.
I'm not going to let Felicity find out. I don't care if this Juan Palos did kill me.
Okay, if you must play rough.
Ow!
Come on, Angel, let's get out of here. Now go on up to your room, Brooksy, and get dolled up for dinner.
But if Paulus is Cartwright, he'll move heaven and earth to get this silly compact.
Well, it's just a long shot, but at least I'll feel we did what we could for Miss Graham. Now go on, scoot.
Well, okay, darling. I'll see you later. Be careful.
Yeah, I'll keep my back to the wall and the lights on. If there are any fireworks, I want to see who sets them off. I might as well shake. Hey, who's that?
Oh!
I didn't get a chance to put the light on. In the wall. It must have fallen right on my head.
Please, darling, sit still.
And I don't have an enemy in the world, huh?
Maybe it was a dear friend who did this.
All I know is it was a he. I heard his footsteps. And the way he hit me, I know it was. Oh, sure. I see the compact is gone.
And we found out what we wanted. He is Cartwright.
Yeah, the long-lost Cartwright.
Aren't you going to tell the police so they can really dig into Senor Palas's past?
Yeah. But first we're going down to the dining room and intrude on the palace's privacy once more.
But why?
Furthermore, we're going to make believe this little accident up here never happened.
I'm certainly not going to break bread with a man who nearly broke your head.
I know it doesn't make much sense, Angel, but that's what we have to do. Hearty appetite, folks.
Well, Mr. Valentine and Miss Brooks.
I thought you said you were leaving.
Well, Mrs. Pallas, I was out for a little while, but I'm back again, big as life.
There's Mr. Henry to get at that table.
Everybody's here. May we join you, folks?
Really, don't you think
Thank
that
you, Mrs. Pallas. We will sit down.
Please do.
And since this is our last meeting, I insist on trying one more card trick. Oh, waiter, you'll be ready to help out, won't you?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, indeed.
Good. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for your kind applause. And thank you very much, gentlemen of Yorkster. Your timing was superb.
Juan,
Juan, people are staring at us.
Well, now, Mr. Valentine, I really must agree with
Thank
my
you,
wife.
Juan. It's about time.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to show you a very spectacular card trick, which will have special meaning to one particular person in here. Since it depends entirely on the element of surprise, I will now ask that the room be plunged into total darkness. Okay, waiter. That's fine.
Doris, wait. Everything is all right.
What made her do it, George? That was horrible.
Come on, Brooksy. Let's get up to the Palace's suite.
Doris, please let me in, darling. There is nothing to be frightened about.
Well, perhaps she'd let me come in and help her.
What are you two doing here? Haven't you done enough?
I know how you feel, but if
Why did you have to do that?
Well, that's what I must explain.
I don't care about your explanation. I don't want to hear them. Just, please help me. We must get in there. Help me, Valentine.
Okay.
Doris!
Not here.
Doris, where are you? Please, Doris. Oh, Doris. No, she is gone. The back door is open and she is gone. All I can find is this note.
Read it, then.
Lie I have been living is over. And in a way, I am glad. I don't know how you guessed my secret, Valentine. Well, this to you, Valentine. What does this mean?
You'd better finish it.
I am Laura Cartwright, and I killed my husband 15 years ago. What is that?
George.
He drove me to it, and I planned it so carefully. Sending the money out of the country, planting the evidence, and then going to Los Altos to live. I found real happiness there with you, Juan. But this would have been the end for us anyway. So goodbye. Doris? Doris killed a man? The man you were looking for? No, this is all so mixed up.
I know.
Mr. Valentine. Mr. Valentine, may I see you a minute, please?
Oh, yeah, sure. Excuse us.
Mrs. Palos, it's terrible. I saw her.
In the dining room, I know.
Huh? No, outside. She was trying to drive away in her husband's car in such a hurry.
Yeah.
She lost control and went over the side of the mountain. Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, it is horrible.
Well, the manager wanted to know if you would break the news to Mr. Palos.
Yeah, I guess so. And then there's still something to be done to help the living.
Well, darling, what did Lieutenant Johnson say?
You know, he's a nice guy, Brooksy. If there's a way of keeping the truth about Laura from Felicity Graham, he'll find it.
Oh, yes, it's much better that way. She can now find some happiness with Paul Hendricks.
I should be sore at Paul for slugging me and taking away that worthless compact. But I guess people in love deserve some consideration.
George, how did you ever suspect Mrs. Palos at all? We were so definitely looking for a man.
Well, because it was a man who knocked me out.
Huh?
Yeah, not a woman. And only the murderer knew for sure that the compact didn't mean anything. So why do anything about getting it from me?
But that's only a small thing.
But I started to think. Looking at it objectively, it was much easier for Doris than her husband to send that money out of the country. And it was her shoe and handbag that were found. And the note about the suicide pact. That was in her handwriting, remember?
And she was an American who came to Los Altos and married Palos some 15 years ago.
Uh-huh. Still, I had to make sure. And I remembered what Felicity said about Doris's fear of the dark.
Like I always said, George, you don't miss anything.
Uh-huh. Say, what time is it anyway?
I wonder. Of course, that great big round object over our head might help.
Huh?
No police headquarters is complete without it.
Well, at least you can't say the clock was right under my nose.
No, darling. It was just over your head.
Robert Daly is starred as George with Virginia Gregg as Brooksy. Let George Do It was written by David Victor and Jackson Gifts and directed by Kenneth Webb. Lorene Tuttle was heard as Felicity, Larry Dobkin as Palos, Lee Patrick as Mrs. Palos, Bill Boucher as Paul, and Victor Rodman as the waiter. The music was composed and presented by Eddie Dunstetter. Your announcer, John Heaston. Listen again next week, same time, same station, to Let George Do It. This is the Mutual Don Lee Broadcasting System.